Council of Monday, April 17th, 2023 shall come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Mike, that we approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. So the consent agenda, you have a copy of the minutes of April 3rd, 2023. We need approval of the bills and claims, of which you also have a copy. And we have the following licenses and permits. Cigarette permit, Randy's Neighborhood Market, Lake Liquors, Pilot Travel, those are all renewals. Excuse me, I have excavators license, Navratil Excavating renewal, tree trimmers license, Jim's Tree Service, that's a renewal. We have a street closing request, Clear Lake Chamber of Commerce, Clear Lake for May 26th and 27th. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gary, seconded by Bennett, that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Now is the time and place for anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council on any issue or concern that is not on the agenda. Please approach the podium, state your name first and last, and give your address so the clerk can properly enter in minutes. This is not a discussion time nor a question and answer time, and you have 3 to 5 minutes. Welcome.
My name is Deb Tesar, DEBTESAR, 705 North Shore Drive. And I'm here to talk briefly about Clear Lake Earth Days, which is this week. Big stuff starts tomorrow. And then also a super quick update on the Clear Lake Trees Committee. First of all, Earth Day and Earth Week, we have activities starting tomorrow. There will be a book chat at the library on a book that's dealing with dark night sky, or lack thereof. Also, the photo contest display at the Clear Lake Arts Center starts up, and then there will be a program tomorrow evening at the public library by Cindy Richardson on Take Flight with Monarchs, and then also there will be an additional segment at the end of that. Dave Holstad will be talking about pollinators. Let's see here. Then on Thursday, the 20th, we have the North Iowa Green Expo at the Surf Ballroom, 4 to 7 p.m. And then after that, at 8 p.m., will be a night wonder walk with Cindy Finley over near the Sisters Prairie. So that is just to show up and do it if you'd like to. Dress warm, maybe. And then finally on Saturday, we'll have quite a bit going on in City Park and also throughout the community, because we'll have, we probably already have had some folks maybe start on their trash bash cleanup. So if you haven't, if you're not familiar, it's an opportunity for groups to kind of claim areas to pick up trash. And then we have actually partnered with the City Public Works, getting trash bins, you know, that we can drop that stuff in, and very happy to have groups participate, neighborhood groups, church groups, whatever. And so that'll be going on, well, throughout this week, and then more on Saturday. Dumpsters will be in the park. And then be a lot of other things going on, including a new event, the Youth Mile, plus we'll have the 5K 10K run at 9 a.m. And then a number of things for families to do, including the Water Rocks trailer from Iowa State, and several other entertainments. There will be a pickleball demonstration at 11, and lots and lots going on. So hopefully you can get out and take advantage of some of these activities during our Earth Day festivities here in Clear Lake. All right, then I also wanted to mention quick update on trees. Last year, I was here in front of this group and talked a little bit about that. We hadn't really had our committee very active for a number of years, and there'd been a little more interest with some of the tree loss we'd had in the community. So we did get back together last year, had an initial meeting that was pretty well attended, but all the people on it are extremely busy people, and our next 2 meetings, we really didn't have much of a turnout, and we didn't have any more meetings after that, but things have been happening. I worked on a grant this last fall through Trees Forever, money provided by Alliant Energy for tree planting, and the application was originally just for $1,050, but we were informed that we were awarded $5,000 for tree planting. So a good share of that will be targeted for planting on the, on school property around the wellness center, where there's been some tree loss due to the construction. Meanwhile, coming up, we'll be having a booth at the Green Expo that I just mentioned as part of Earth Day. And then I will be getting a few meetings back on the calendar for the folks who are interested, and we'll be trying to collect a few more names at the Green Expo, and hopefully getting some sort of an educational event scheduled for this summer. And then would like to have an Arbor Day observance, a tree planting on, mainly of just one tree on public grounds. And I've been in contact with Jim Jackson about that. We still have to nail down a location, but we do want to at least have one tree planted somewhere in city property. And then moving ahead, we still want to kind of work, again, with, Public Works, Parks Department, school staff on sort of a strategic plan for trees in our community and keeping our canopy kind of ready for what's coming in terms of loss from pests, age, disease, that sort of thing. So anyway, that's all I had to share.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Not appearing, and move on to 5, unfinished business. A, rezoning petition from William Yan to rezone parcels. This is a 12-digit number. It begins with 0 and ends with 0. And the same, and that means we're going from RS5, low-density single-family residential, to RM12, low-density multifamily residential. This is the second of 3 readings. And I entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 876, an ordinance amending the official zoning and land use maps of the city to rezone certain properties from RS5, low-density single-family residential, to RM12, low-density multifamily residential. Motion, please.
So offered. Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Dana, that we approve ordinance number 876 on the second of 3 readings. Is there any discussion? Roll call. Mark?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
And Dana?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0, and ordinance number 876 is approved on the second of 3 readings. Number 6, new business. A, South 15th Street Everybody Plays Park and Playground Project. Review of pay estimate number 3 and change order number 1 by Scott Flory, City Administrator. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The yellow sheets here in your packet address this item. That's pay estimate number 3 for, as the mayor indicated, the South 15th Street Everybody Plays Park and Playground Improvement Project. If you recall, of course, we awarded that to Dean Snyder Construction here in Clear Lake in the amount of $1,997,500. Contract items completed to date, we've had pay estimates totaling $138,921.58, minus the retainage of just under $7,000. So total completed minus the retainage so far has been $131,975.50. This pay estimate is in the amount of $13,966.67, minus the retainage of $698.34, leaves a net amount for this pay estimate of $13,268.33. Just in terms of what's been completed for this pay estimate, not much, although there's been a lot of construction activity. If you've been out to the site here the last week or so, been quite a bit of activity going on. So this is just for materials, mostly electrical materials, and then some general condition items as well, totaling that small amount. So again, 13,000. Let me get that number again. Yep, that's it, 13,268.33. So that's the pay estimate number 3. The purple sheets that follow that pay estimate number 3 are the change order number 1. It's a request by the owner of the city for this item. This is for the 50-foot zip line amenity that would be added. If you recall, when we bid this project, we did have the one bid alternate, and that was for this 50-foot zip line amenity that would be added. So the zip line itself would be purchased by the city outside the scope of the contract, so we don't have the contractor involved in the actual purchase of that, avoid a markup on that, of course, as well, and sales tax issues there if we buy it. So The $35,510.57 would be the cost from Dean Snyder for the installation of that particular piece of playground equipment. And so if you kind of go on to the backside, you'll see how that's broken down. General concrete conditions are $15,743.50. And then they have the PIP is poured in place surfacing material and engineered wood fiber. And again, that's $16,248. So the total amount of the change order, again, was $35,510.57. So if you recall, we did receive a contribution from the Harmon Family Trust for the South 15th Street Playground and Park project of $25,000. So our recommendation would be to apply it towards the cost of the purchase of the equipment and the install. And then the Everybody Plays Playground Committee has also raised an additional about $7,000. So between those two, that pretty well covers the cost of purchasing the playground, added zipline playground equipment material itself. So the city's contribution essentially would be furnishing the cost of the installation of it. So I don't have anything further on that change order or pay estimate number 3 unless anybody has any questions.
Council, any questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott. Therefore, entertain a motion to approve pay estimate number 3. This is with regard to the 15th Street Everybody Plays Park and Playground project in the amount of $13,268.33, and change order number 1, $35,510.57. Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Gary, seconded by Mark, that we approve pay estimate number 1 and change order number 1. Is there any discussion?
Just real quick, Mayor, I just would comment that I think the zip line would be a nice addition to the park. And I think I'm, like the rest of us, grateful for the donors and everyone that supported this and the contribution by the city. So, again, another effective private-public partnership. Thank you.
Any other comments? Where am I? In the middle of a motion, aren't I? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. 6B, Professional Engineering Services Agreement with Dixon Engineering for East Water Tower Painting, Repairs, and Maintenance Project. Intro, Mr. Flory.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. These are the blue sheets in your packet there. Water Department's requesting approval of that. Again, the blue sheets, the proposal from Dixon Engineering for professional services related to preparation of specifications and bid services and contract documents associated with the exterior paint project at the East Water Tower, the I-35 Water Tower. Also involves your interior tank coating, maintenance, and some other miscellaneous items there as well. The amount of that professional engineering services agreement is not to exceed $9,925. We have Adam and Jason and I kind of looked at some of the past projects and qualifications that Dixon's provided with, and they've got strong experience in this field, and in particular in Iowa and in cities and communities within our region as well. So good credentials. Just as a reminder, the East Water Tower, of course, 1 million gallon elevated storage tank located there on South 24th Street. I was thinking that went into construction 2011, but Adam tells me it's actually 2009 that's gone in. So about 15 years on that so far to date. Of course, that's one of 3 elevated storage towers that we have. The other 1 million gallon out on the west end of town, and then we have the 250,000 gallon storage tank down there in the Pine Tree Park neighborhood. So, of course, those provide water system pressure and water storage for both domestic and fire purposes. September of 2021, we drained the tower so that thorough inspection could be performed on both the interior and exterior of the tank. The findings and recommendations of that did include the things that we brought forward here tonight in terms of the exterior painting, the interior recoating, and some, as I mentioned, some other miscellaneous repair items that would be included. The schedule that we're looking at for this project would be the consideration of the engineering service agreement tonight, and then preparation of the bid specifications for ultimately a bid letting probably in November, December of this year to get in the queue for contractors for this line of work for next probably 1 year from now in 2024. So, and just mention that we did, of course, budget for this project. I think we budgeted $500,000 for this project in fiscal year '24. So, I don't have anything further in terms of any background before Adam kind of reviews the proposal with you with Dixon.
Any questions for Scott on this issue? Thank you, Scott. Review, Adam Tice, Water Superintendent, Tim Wilson, Dixon Engineering. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Scott covered it really well. We're basically trying to get a jump start. All these contractors have already made their schedule for this year, so they've got stuff that are happening now. So for us to get a jump start on this for the technical, excuse me, specifications in the bidding contract and the bid opening, and that is our plan, is to have a number to go ahead and proceed with this in November, December, and then we're hoping to start mid-April, all weather. Like this year is absolutely gorgeous. It will take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to complete, so we really need to be done and have this completed late May, early June, as that we get into our really busy time. We will be without that tank for that time, so it'll be down and completely empty. As far as the specifications go, Tim is here if you have any questions as far as that. But it's something they also did the inspection for us in '21.
I was just going to ask, maybe review that a little bit, then maybe I'll describe a little bit, maybe Tim can, the process that's involved with actually the painting. I know there's like a shroud that goes over it, just kind of what that process looks like.
Welcome, Tim.
Welcome. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, we completed our inspection in September of 2021 and put forth recommendations that are that you're considering here this evening for the improvements. The overall project itself is an exterior full blast and recoat, which will require containment. So if you're familiar with that, they basically install some arms and a shroud that is covering that area the whole time they're working inside of it to primarily control dust and make sure that coating does not leave the site in the wind. Towers are notorious for being high enough in the air that they're going to catch wind, and that's going to travel. If you're familiar, if you've been back and forth here in the last year, we completed our firm worked with the city of Mason City, their North Eisenhower tank, had a containment around it this past summer. So that's the same type of procedure that you're going to be undergoing here. As far as the contract that is before you, that is for us to produce the technical specifications and put the bidding documents together to get it out to bid. We, as a company, a little bit of background about Dixon, we do not paint. We are strictly third-party inspectors. We've been in this business for about 42 years, and our founder always thought it was a little bit disingenuous for the contractor who paints to inspect their own work. So he carved out a niche. I admire his entrepreneurial spirit because here we are 42 years later still doing the same thing. Carved out a little niche where we kind of serve that middle ground between the contractor and the city. So we would produce the technical specifications, get it out to bid, and in full disclosure, after a contractor is awarded, I would seek to amend our current agreement to provide those on-site observation services to assist in the rest of that process so that the city gets a quality paint job. There's a lot of different measures that go into place to make sure you get that.
I was just going to add that's standard for what we do on all of our projects. So we'll enter into many engineering services agreement, that exact same type, where we do design, bidding, contract documents, and then when the bid letting occurs and we have the contractor, then we specifically negotiate out. Many times it might be based on, if we get a really good contractor, we know it's going to, they can almost be on autopilot. We probably won't need quite as many hours of observation, so it gives us a little more leverage in negotiating with you as well. So.
And for us, that's the exact same reason why I like to wait. I've been a part of probably 7 different bid openings in the past couple of months, and I always like to know who that contractor is before I put together our observation services agreement, because if they're a contractor that's familiar with our specifications, they know what our expectations are, it's a much smoother process than maybe a brand new one. Not that that can't go well too, it just sometimes requires a little bit more work on the front side.
And you will be doing interior as well as exterior on the bowl?
On Our recommendations from our inspection report in 2021 were a full blast and recoat of the exterior. Your interior coating system is in fairly good shape. Our recommendation is the installation of a cathodic protection system to protect the substrate, the steel that's still there. There are very minimal failures. The installation of that cathodic system does require some welding in the wet interior of the tank, which will burn coating, obviously. So there will be coating repairs associated with the installation of that equipment. But as far as the entire wet interior structure, no, we do believe you can get some additional life out of that without having to do a full blast and recoat of the wet interior too. That will be a future project for you, but we don't believe it's necessary at this time.
So there's no need to drain any water out of the tower itself?
No, sir, the water will have to be drained out of the
There
tower.
will be, okay.
Yeah, primarily to install the equipment for one, but for two, because of condensation, the exterior coating system, that surface has to be dry, and condensation is gonna be a problem if it's still got water in it.
There's no effect, Adam, does it, on the amount that you're supposed to have from the reserve at all times?
No, sir, we'll be fine.
All right. That's a DNR requirement or somebody's requirement?
Well, we're good right now.
All right.
We will still be over capacity from the million that we had in our original three tanks. We're
Right.
still over capacity, plus with our brand new pumps and motors, we won't have a problem with it.
So I think even just building on, so like what the mayor was suggesting, the peak demand, you know, we'll be off of that, but we're not going to hit our peak demand based on the timing of when we're doing this. So the average daily demand, what we will have in storage will still be more than what our average daily demand is. It's why you stressed the need to get that peak back up, why you need to do it at a certain time so we can address that when the busy season gets and we get closer to that peak. Because as you know, there's been some years in the 4th of July where we're pushing that 2 million number. When all the splash pads and pools and everything are going, that's when the real heavy usage. I didn't imagine too, in your business, how are you seeing the prices come in on these bid lettings that you're having?
The last several that we've opened have been under our estimate, so we've still, we do, as a company, as a whole, we probably perform somewhere in the neighborhood of 500-600 inspections, like similar to we did for yours in September of 2021, annually. Of those 500 to 600 kind of maintenance inspections, that usually typically translates into about 100 rehabilitation projects, which is what I would consider this one to be. So at the end of every year, we go through and reevaluate our cost estimates to try and get you as accurate as numbers as possible based on the bid openings that we see throughout the year. The last several have all been under our estimate. Now, those are estimates, they're not bids, that I don't get to control their environment, but by staying out in front of this process prior to most contractors filling their calendar, I think a bid window that we're operating in here to get bids out this winter or even this fall for a spring project. That way we're getting ahead of them before they fill their spring calendars. Should be the best opportunity for good pricing.
Yeah, as Scott said, the best for us too, as far as pulling water, it'd be done by our rush season, so-called, in the summer, so. Any other questions?
How many contractors typically bid on a project like this?
So when we submit out, once the specification and bid package is put together, we will advertise that in front of our list of contractors that we have, so well over 100. The bids, close to home example here for you, I think the ones we opened in Mason City, we had 10 bidders, I believe. It's, every one that I've had this spring, I've had somewhere between 8 and 10 bidders. And it has kind of encompass the normal bell curve that you would typically see where you've got somebody that's, this last one that I opened, that's why it's stuck in my head, somebody was ridiculously low, and they wanted out because they realized they had missed something. The rest of them kind of all fell in the middle, and then there's always some that if their calendar is full, they throw a number at it to see what they can get, but I'd shoot for 8 to 10 is what I like to see.
Is the 15-year span a typical span for repainting one of these units?
Our experience is, and Mayor asked about this prior to the meeting, what I would be coming to you if this tank, where it currently is, when it was constructed, you'd be at that 15-year mark. That's typically the window for an overcoat instead of a full blast and repaint. The life cycle of a coating system is largely dependent on the application, and that's part of what our observation services entail. Looking at your tank, particularly I noted Adam driving up here today, with all the trees now gone along the highway, it's really easy to see some of the coating failures that exist primarily on the east side. I can't speak to what happened when the tower was originally built. We weren't involved. But our process would be to make sure that 15 years from now, we're talking about an overcoat, not a full blast and recoat. A 15-year window for an overcoat, you should be able to overcoat that tank 2 more times so that you're at almost 45 years before you have to blast and go back down to bare steel, typically. That's what our goals are.
Yeah, knowing nothing about it, the 15 years seemed like a,
Pretty short.
yeah, because the mayor and I were sitting here when we built the thing, and just seems like yesterday. Of course, it wasn't.
Right.
And also being an old timer, I miss water tower paint and repair.
Sure.
All the silver tanks with the red tops all around. And
Sure.
anyway, I wax and wane nostalgically, and I better shut up.
I thought for sure you'd take us back to the old bell curve when you threw that one out back then. Oh, you graded on that.
Don't go to
Unfortunately,
the water stand down in Central Park. We
that
don't need
ship
that.
sailed years ago.
All right, any other comments, questions, council? Therefore, thank you, Tim. I appreciate you being here tonight.
Not a
too.
problem. I
Thanks.
appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve professional services agreement with Dixon Engineering not to exceed $9,925 with regard to the engineering services on the East Water Tower. Motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Gary, seconded by Bennett. Is that right?
Sure.
That we approve the professional service agreement with Dixon Engineering. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. C, 2023 pavement crack sealing project, review of bids, recommendation regarding awarded contract. Jeremy Kornberg, Public Works Director. Welcome, Jeremy.
Council. So as part of our 22-23 budget, we had some funds in there for some crack sealing to go over several of our last overlays. I think the most recent one was 2018, and then I think like 15, 14, 13, somewhere in there, there was 3 or 4 of them. So as part of our prelude to that, we went out and did some surveying of the areas to kind of determine what the priority areas should be, which you can kind of see on that larger map that I provided. After getting that together, I met with 3 different companies to get bids and specifications on what the best process would be. I met with D&M Asphalt Services out of New Hampton, Bargain Incorporated, and Heartland Asphalt out of Mason City. So met with all of them, kind of discussed what we kind of wanted out of the project, and then received bids. All the bids came in with the same specs where cracks between like a 1/4 inch and an inch would be routed out, and then so they route them out, blow all the debris out, and then seal them with a like a mastic type elastometric I guess oil rubberized product. Heartland did say cracks between like 3/4 of an inch, they'd use like a backer rod to help fill those gaps for some of the expansion. So we got all 3 bids back, and kind of based on the areas, we estimated about 30,000 linear feet of cracks to be sealed. So then we based our bids based on a linear foot price. The 3 bids came in. D&M Asphalt Services was right at $2.48 per linear foot, which put their bid at $74,400. They had no cost in there for traffic control. Bargain Incorporated was at $2.25 per linear foot with no cost for traffic control. Theirs was right at $67,500. Heartland Asphalt was $1.39 per linear foot and a $1,500 lump sum for traffic controls. And that included at 30,000 feet was 43,200, which was below what I had budgeted for this project. It was kind of lumped into some contracted services. So we're using that same line item for like some of the grinding and that overlay we're doing as well. So we should be sitting well on that line item. As far as detacking after they fill it, he said depending on the weather, it can kind of harden up and not be very tacky within, half hour, an hour. But at our request, we're going to use like a biodegradable toilet paper, which is what they use, a lot of these companies use. So they just lay it down over top of it as it goes. It gets worn off, and like I said, it's biodegradable, so no harm at the end. So I did speak with Chris Jessen with Heartland Asphalt, or email today on timing of this, if it's approved and we're ready to move forward. He said possibly weather depending, they could be getting after this next week even, so if not, in the next week or two. So, any questions?
So even during the winter, there's some flexibility there, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so during the summer months, all that asphalt kind of heats up and expands, so you'll see less of the cracking in the summer. And that's why I like to do it. They like to do it this time of year where that hasn't expanded yet. So during the winter, those cracks expand or widen because everything can, all that material hardens up and it widens those cracks. So spring's a really good time or late fall, but they prefer to do it in the spring when they are looking for work and everything. So this is a perfect time to get it done.
Well, you want to get it when the crack's wide anyway.
Yep.
Get it cleaned
Yep.
out.
And I think they try not to, and I guess the one thing is they try not to overfill it, because if it overfills, that's what easily gets peeled off. So they try to fill it right to the edge or just a little under, I think. But it's a, it's a liquid-based product, so it's not perfect. So, but any other questions?
Interesting process. Yeah. Any other questions for Jeremy?
As you mentioned, we used to do this quite a bit. Go ahead.
I have a question. Are they going to get the crack out here in the parking lot?
That was number one. That's
Yes,
number one.
as
All
far-
of them.
Yeah, so I did include the City Hall parking lot. We have a few in the Public Works parking lot. I didn't notice the library, or I guess you have some in yours. We can add that to it, because you're going to be in that area anyway. So yeah, the parking lots would be kind of that 2018 overlay, so.
Yeah, that was our number one culprit there, the one, most people are anxious.
I was just looking at that last week.
Oh, it's enormous.
God, we need to get at this.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah, we used to have a crack sealing program that we did pretty religiously for quite a while, and then we kind of went away from it for a little while, and I really don't recall why exactly we went away from it, but, looking around, we've made a lot of investment in these resurfacing projects, and generally you want to get on those within a few years after the resurfacing to seal these little bit bigger cracks to keep, obviously the water is the worst culprit for potholing, and once the water gets down there, and then as Jeremy mentioned, the freeze-thaw cycle hits that and expands, and then in the summertime when it contracts, that's what creates the potholes that you get. So very important part of maintenance for the streets.
We don't want your little red Mustang to disappear in some big crack out there, so we'll take care of that. Any other comments, questions, Jeremy? Thanks, Jeremy. Entertain a motion to award a construction contract with regard to 2023 pavement crack sealing project to Heartland Asphalt, Mason City, in the amount of $43,200.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Bennett, seconded by Mike, that we approve the construction contract to Heartland Asphalt. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Chief, Captain, report. Welcome, Captain.
Mayor and council. Couple things to report this week. Friday, Officer Penalty will be graduating from Iowa Law Enforcement Academy down in West Des Moines. Graduation's at Valley Church. It's at 10 o'clock in the morning, so there'll be a couple of us traveling down there for the day to attend her graduation ceremony. I think it's unique. I think Chief Roth has briefed you in the past, but she was at the academy with her brother, who will graduate in the afternoon for the Mason City Police Department too. So It's happened a few times in the past, but our two siblings going down there to graduate on Friday. We are currently in the process of hiring our first community service officers. We'll have interviews next week coming up. And then as we go through that process of onboarding a new CSO and outlining their responsibilities and getting them equipped, we'll do that. And our goal is to have them operational before the triathlon in May. So that's our goal. I think we'll get done that a little early, but that's kind of my hard deadline, so we can have that resource there for us on our first big event for the summer. We have some department-wide training coming up next week, or actually this week, starting on Wednesday. We have all our officers cycling through our first set of range training, and then we have a department-wide meeting coming up next Wednesday here in the council chambers, which will be in the morning, and we'll cover a variety of topics up to legal updates with the county attorney's office and some other training topics that we'll address. So we'll have some outside guests coming in, and this really kicks off our first training cycle for the year. As you know, our focus for the last couple of years has been training for the officers too. So this year, the officers have 40 hours of payback time in their contract, and so we're hopefully use all 40 plus there. The last thing I have for you is we're, like I mentioned earlier, with the triathlon coming up, we're in season for all of our special events. We have the Earth Day event coming up on Saturday, so there'll be some road closures uptown for that. Well, some officers there to help with that too, but we've been having some meetings, planning all the way out through the car crews already, getting those plans set up and looking at and working with those different organizations that plan those, so we're all on the same page and we have a proper plan going forward, so prepare for those events. So that's really about all I have, unless you guys have any questions on those
Council, any
topics.
questions for Captain? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Public Work Director's report, update on East Main Avenue Street Reconstruction Project and 2023 Street Resurfacing Project, Division 1, and an update on the Courtway Park Street Lighting Project. Welcome again, Charlie.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. East Main Avenue, Wix has 2 crews working on sidewalks and driveways. If we continue to have good weather, they are actually looking at possibly wrapping up all the concrete work by end of next week. However, we do have some not so great weather in the forecast, so we'll see how that works. All in all, it's all going well. As far as the resurfacing project, Wix had several crews out last week. They did pull 1 crew at the beginning of this week for some other work, so they're kind of focusing mainly on Main Avenue to wrap that up as best they can, so the work that they were doing this last week and whatnot on the resurfacing will slow down. Once Main's complete, they're gonna kind of pull a crew and a half back to the overlay and get back to working on that. They estimate probably 3 to 4 weeks of concrete work remaining once they get those crews back on. So still a pretty good time schedule, still moving forward pretty well there. And then the update on the lighting project, that's actually the Emerald Edge lighting project, I believe. So K&W's installing the meter socket and controls today, or they did, wrapping up most of their work this week. Alliance still does have their electric install, or doesn't have their electric install completed, so lights won't be turned on until the transformers are installed out in that area and made active. We're waiting on an update from Alliant and Verhalen on the timeline to get that all in and done. So a lot of those projects, the transformers and all that, bigger projects and whatnot, holds up a lot of these projects these days. So I know they're struggling with equipment. I mean, they have all the equipment there, but just as far as installs and whatnot, it's another game there. So other than that, no other updates. So any questions?
Does that refer to the lines that parallel 122 there,
Yeah. Well, yeah, there and then all just.
as well as the street?
Yep.
And
And
that'll
they
all
have
be,
new transformers and everything for that subdivision that are all going in, so.
it'll all underground?
Yep.
All of it. Neat. Any comments, questions for Jeremy, Council?
All right,
Thank you again, appreciate it. Director of Finance Administrative Services report. Mr. Schmidt, welcome, Creighton.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item I have for review is the accounting manager position description. Very bright orange paper towards the end of your packet. As my role has evolved in the city and I've taken on more outside of the financial aspects and tasks within the city, there's risen a need to hire someone to assist with the accounting tasks that we have. More specifically, accounting entries, different reporting we have. We have a lot of grants, of course, that we're working with right now. The biggest one, Destination Iowa. Someone to assist in those type of tasks. I will say Hope and Aaron have done a phenomenal job since I've been here, taking on, I think, bigger roles than what they had before I was here. And both of them continue to be very busy and do a very great job. Part of having someone in this role is also for segregation of duties purposes. So there's some of those things that I do that Hope or Aaron couldn't do because of some of the other tasks that they're completing. So we've looked at this. It's a unique position. It would just be a part-time position, probably start off in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 hours a week. We're also offering it on a remote basis. We do have an individual who has interest in this position, strong interest. I know the individual, Scott met with the individual as well. So we will post this and are expecting that he would apply for this position. And hopefully that would work out. Another part of this is succession planning. So I think Scott's talked on numerous occasions about organic growth within our organization. And this would be a prime example of that. So someone who is from the area who could down the road fill in as a director of finance if I were to move, hopefully, up within the organization. So this would be a very good move for the city to make now. And I think when I started, I don't know, I've shown a few of you kind of the training document that I was given, just a one-pager with a few calendar items throughout the year. And the hope with this position would be that I would have some time to invest in that individual and get them to the point where they have a lot of knowledge when hopefully they would grow into a director of finance role within the city. Any questions on that description?
I guess the only question I have, I'm looking at the experience requirements, and I'm focusing in on the preferred education training line. Does this individuals that you have visited with check any of those boxes?
Yes, they do have a master's of business administration, so they check those boxes. And extensive experience in accounting.
Okay, thank you.
Did we talk about this at budget?
We did. We're just a little slow getting around to it, but yeah.
Did we put any number on budget?
We did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just hadn't had an urgency to get to it quite yet, but now is kind of when we brought it forward, so.
No, I understand. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Creighton, I think it's an excellent idea, and Scott, because frankly, when I think about all the projects we have going and the importance of the Surf District project and your expertise related to that, I just think it makes a lot of sense to bring someone on board to do some of these things, and as you said, to develop for the future, because obviously that project is very, very important to us. So I want to thank you guys for proposing this, and I think it's an excellent idea. So,
Yeah,
For example, we were in the Surf District project meeting about the Oaks Hotel the other day, and that was a meeting that I not only coordinated, but then helped lead, and that was a full-day meeting, and that is one of the 4 projects that we have going in the Surf District.
even as I hear on a daily basis, you know, even without those that you mentioned, you know, that really puts us on overload, even our day-to-day at the present time seems to be increasing each time. The activity out there, and it's not just small talk. I mean, it's all business talk all day long with all those people. It's, this is well justified on a part-time basis, as we say. How many hours we looking at possibly?
Probably 10 to 15 to start.
Yeah. And then going up, yeah.
And my understanding is that at this point, with this level of employment, this individual would not have any fringe benefits from the city.
That's correct.
Potentially IPERS, but that'll be it.
Mr. Floyd, do we need a motion or anything on this?
Just kind of consensus head nods, totally sufficient. If everybody's good with it, we'll go ahead and
Okay.
post it, so.
I've noticed this winter, I've kind of paid a lot of attention to your job, to what you do, great. And I have to admit, you've taken on some more role than normal.
Thank you.
All right, the next item here is for the outdoor recreation
Need a head
complex.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Bobbleheading.
for the record, I saw head nods from Dana, Bennett, Gary, Mike, and Mark.
I forgot to head nod there, kid. All right, thumbs up then. The head nod.
Back there nodding.
Nice to get that in the record there, Creighton.
Next one is an update on the outdoor recreation complex shelter. And actually, some of this work has already begun with the parking lot expansion out at the ORC. So the Public Works team, thanks to Jeremy, I think the Parks team has helped out a little bit there as well. So since I came here, my kids have been involved in that soccer program, and it continues to grow year after year. And then on top of that, I know the flag football program grew a lot last year with Adam putting some special care into that program as well. So the ORC continues to grow and grow as far as use goes. And there was a need for parking, and Public Works was able to do all that internally. And the timing was perfect because we were able to repurpose a lot of the rock that was existing over at the Everybody Plays Park site and move that over to the parking lot now at the ORC. So that project's pretty well done as of today. So they did that very quickly, in under a week, and it'll be a much better experience and a safer experience for those parking and utilizing the fields. The second part is on the very last page of your packets there. This is a shelter for the same ORC park there. Very last page, there's a rendering of the complete shelter. So what we have out there currently, we usually just have 2 porta potties, I think, sitting out there, but this would be 3 permanent family restrooms. It also has area for storage and then a concessions area. And then there's overhang for seating as well. So this would be of great use for families that are at the soccer games, at soccer practice, for football, other activities that we'll have out there in the future. There'll also be an opportunity for people to rent this facility out just as they do the rest of our shelters. And there's some storage that we have. Some of it's temporary out there right now. There's a trailer at the North Iowa Soccer Club, and then there's an old shed. All of that storage would be able to move into here, which would free up some more parking and also look a lot better. And these designs were done by Bergman and Cram. This isn't the final design, but getting close to it.
Location on the site?
Location is pretty close to that north parking lot, so the same one that they just expanded. It'll kind of be right off the south side of that.
Haven't seen the expansion of that parking lot. You need to go out there and look at it. That's much, much needed. For me, do a short synopsis of what you said with regard to the numbers that we have out there in times of the season, real quick, if you could.
Yeah. What are the numbers for the soccer club? I think you said we have a record number again this year.
Yeah, so our little kids program, which is pre-K through 2nd grade, we hit 210 kids this year, which is 6 years ago, I think we were at like 140, 125. Back at Parks and Rec just did it. I think the first year I did it was about 8, 9 years ago. It was only 75 kids. And then our travel program, which is 2nd grade through 8th grade, we got another 200 plus kids. So Tuesday nights are our little kids program. which goes for 2 hours, so we got 100+ kids each hour, plus parents and families and everything out there. If you ever want to see a huge group of kids and families, come out on a Tuesday night or a Sunday afternoon when we have our program out there, and it's a zoo. So we actually ran out of fields this year and had to add a third hour for our game. So, yeah, just it's a great facility, and we're, as a club, we're just excited about the facility and the ability to continue to kind of make things better out there. So.
Remind me, Craig, on the funding, that group was putting in, was it $30,000?
$30,000.
Yeah, towards this shelter project, so just, again, thanks for that.
Will this feature a concession stand?
It has,
Or
yes,
the
it has a room
capability,
available,
yeah.
capabilities.
Okay.
And so we don't necessarily envision staffing that ourselves, but different groups, maybe
Sure.
like the North Iowa Soccer
Well,
Club
yeah,
might.
but
run
the
something out of it.
facility would offer that possibility.
Yes, yep.
Yeah. You know, I like to ride my bike out there a lot, so I'd appreciate some giant wind screens, because every once in a while it's windy out there.
Just a little bit. And then I have one more item here on the Everybody Plays. This is the packet that was separate from the packet. And we'll have a few pictures on this one. Cool. This is equipment specific for the Everybody Plays playground. That's what these two quotes are. This is in the project budget, but we did not have it as part of the Snyder estimate, just as Scott was talking about earlier, to not get those up charges on there, to avoid those. So, believe it or not, we spent a lot of time. So the first one is Premier Poly Steel, and they're out of Northwood, Iowa. So we spent a lot of time with them, picking the perfect pieces of equipment, park benches, trash cans, bike racks, picnic tables, all of that. And we spent a lot of time on color selection, and it ended up that all of those pieces are going to be black because there's so many other colors within the park here. But we looked at all of that. Premier Polysteel has been a great partner to start working with as well. Since they're very local, there's not a freight charge on here. There's a 15% discount that's not only going to apply to this order, but any orders that we have in the future. So we hope to use them more and more in the future. But here is the overall layout of the park. You can start to see some of those black benches kind of around the trail on the right side. You'll see a picnic table over there in the grass. Under the shelter there, there's picnic tables. And then there's a bike rack right here in the center of the screen. And then up by the pool, there's a few bike racks as well. You go to the next picture. I don't remember, how many pictures do we have here? 4? Here's a little, so the other quote here is more specialty equipment. So in that entrance down there, you'll see those 3 half circles there. And so those are kind of a dual purpose. One is a place to sit, but then it creates a barrier without having, like, closing the gates. So for children that are running around, it kind of helps direct them away from the parking lot, but without having a closed park type of look. And of course, we do have the fencing around the rest of the park there. So there's those 3 pieces there, and then there's a couple in the back there, and those offer some more color. But you can see kind of all the color in that front of the shelter there, which is why it kind of made sense to just go with black for a lot of this equipment. View from the splash pad. So again, those are the full circle, the same type of benches there. And then you can see kind of under the shelter and how it relates to the pool and everything. And then there's just another aerial view of all the play equipment. So the zip line that we're talking about and the change order that we did earlier, that's pictured right there. A tremendous piece of equipment there. So that is all I have on this one. But looks amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say, doesn't that look fabulous?
It really does.
Yeah.
They're off of that berm, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, so that's a raised berm right there. And I think there's one more kind of raised berm over by the splash pad.
So that huge berm that they have out there now, that'll be spread out over the entire property.
Yes. And that's a topsoil for everything, and then a couple of berms.
Neat. Questions?
What's the lead time on getting this?
Premier Polysteel is 12 weeks out. And then, I don't remember the specific one, but for the other one, but plenty of time for a September opening.
Right now, we see one problem, we're not gonna have enough parking. I think it's gonna be so highly used, that parking's gonna be an issue.
You think
People
so?
have to walk to it. Yeah, between the pool and this area.
Right.
Which is gonna be awesome,
Uh-huh.
but, I have a feeling people will be like, we had to park 6 blocks away. Which is great.
That's Clear Lake in the summer.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
Anything else, Council, for Creighton? Good report, thank you.
Thank you.
Under Mayor's report, bear with me, I've got 2 proclamations here. I know Mike did those last week, and by the way, I want to thank Mike for filling in for the guy here. I did view it from a few miles away, and good job, buddy. Appreciate this. Okay, the first proclamation, this is an Infertility Awareness Week proclamation, National Infertility Awareness Week in the city of Clear Lake, Iowa, April 23rd to the 29th of 2023. Whereas according to the CDC, 1 in 8 couples have trouble getting pregnant or sustaining a pregnancy, and whereas the World Health Organization and American Medical Association define infertility as a disease, and whereas infertility affects women and men equally and does not discriminate based on race, religion, sexual orientation, marital status, or socioeconomic level, and whereas all people challenged in their family building journey should have access to all family building options. And whereas family building options include adoption and medical treatment such as in vitro fertilization and third-party reproduction. And whereas cost and lack of insurance coverage are barriers for many in our city of Clear Lake, Iowa to access the family building option they need. And whereas raising awareness of infertility and the barriers faced by the family building community is the first step to removing these barriers. Whereas the city of Clear Lake, Iowa joins Resolve, the National Infertility Association, and dedicated volunteers, healthcare professionals, and members of the infertility and family building community by participating in this promotion. Now, therefore, I, as mayor of Clear Lake, Iowa, do hereby proclaim April 23rd to 29th, 2023, National Infertility Awareness Week in this city, dated the 17th day of April, 2023. And now, this is the official proclamation from Tree City, USA. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, as mayor of the city of Clear Lake, do hereby proclaim Saturday, April 29th, as Arbor Day in the city of Clear Lake. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect trees and woodlands. And I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generation, dated the 17th day of April of 2023. And much like Deb said, during Citizens Opportunity, we have received monies for, to take on perhaps the planting of more trees. I do want, as part of my mayor's report here as well, say that a few years back, and Deb, you may remember this, Margot Underwood had a forester, state forester, come here, and supposedly they were to come back and do, they did something in the county, I do believe. Casey Callahan, I believe, was here at that time, and they sent somebody down the South Shore and around about the number of ash trees that were there. And since that time, Mark Fisher has done a count, and you have seen that, I do believe. So we do have a group in our community who are aware of the fact, number one, of the ash tree meeting its demise across the country, and that's critical as well. I think the fact, and Scott had an email the other day that I happened to see about, you know, a suggestion of even in those what do you call them?
Islands.
Islands in the parking lot at the Wellness Center, that a tree or two came there, you know. I do believe at one time there was quite a tree committee, because where the school, Clear Creek School is now, used to be where they would plant all their little saplings down there as replacement of trees in the community. There was no recreation committee, but there was a park committee to do that. So we may go back to that side. Those trees are long gone. And I see where they did cut a bunch of them down there on the highway. Supposedly, I asked why the other day, and they said, well, they had reached their maturity. I suppose they were willow trees of some sort, but they were really high, protecting the bad eyesight now of our water tower. But they're gone. They're flat as flat can be out there now. So kind of interesting that they even put them in. And going back, and it's also part of my report, going back to what Jeremy said on, you know, this new, I think it's a rather new process in the crack filling, et cetera, et cetera. If any of you have been on Highway 18 coming into Clear Lake from the south, you hit some of those chuck holes that are out there, whatever that micro deal that the DOT put on there a number of years ago is terrible, downright terrible. Now, I was at a NIACOG meeting the other day, and they did say that that's going to be looked at the first part of July by the state. They're going to come in and do some grinding out there. There's some sort of micro, they're calling it. There's another part to that they're going to look. But I also think we need to be aware, and I talked to Scott about this the other day, coming into Clear Lake, that same slurry coat, as I call it, the pink stuff or whatever it was, there's some really bad areas out there also, if you look at that. And that's not our problem, but that's DOT. If we can get them hustling on that, that's not good for people coming into our own community where you've got those big chuck holes, so to speak. But if we think we stay on top of that, we shall be fine. Green Expo, I want to push that just real quickly, because I do believe certain groups have certain areas that they clean up. You know, once again, the entrance into Clear Lake out there, there's always a mess around the truck stop, the McDonald's area, and so on. That if somebody does not have anything to do, that'd be a good place to start, is out there. The other Saturday, all young people should go to that in the park. I've been to that many times. DNR will be there with their whatever water rocks are. That's kind of an interesting term. And then the monarchs and I think it's invertebrates, it says in the library. What else was there? Oh, Cindy Finland, as you also said. I'm repeating everything you said. But that deal at the surf on Thursday afternoon, was it from 4 to 7 at night? You need to go to that. We all need to go to that. That's very, very good, and it's packed down there. Some interesting local people are there supporting that as well. As I recall, it was the early 70s that we got Earth Day going around here in the school system. Judy Coe had it at the high school. I was in the old junior high down there. We collected stuff out of the ditches and everything from motor engines to anything else, put it in front of the junior high, and then weighed it. And then you know where we took it? To the dump. You know, there was no recycling back then. But we've come a long way since then, but even now, we can't find any place for our aluminum cans because there's no place to take them. I don't know where we're going with all this, but anyway, kind of an interesting time. All right, Mr. Flory?
Just real quick, I wanted to brief the council on a couple items. We're soon going to be sending out defective sidewalk replacement letters for the 2023 street resurfacing project. If you recall, every time we do these street resurfacing projects, we do an inspection along the properties that abut the streets that have been resurfaced to ensure that the sidewalks are compliant with city ordinances, and invariably, there's always many that are not, and so we inventory those and then send out letters. And we give a bit of a carrot for an incentive. We reimburse the cost of the material, which is the concrete, if the property owner gets it done, and we don't have to include it later in a much larger overall assessment project. So those letters will be, the city clerk will be sending those out here pretty quickly. We're going to be giving them, I think, about 6 months or so to get that work done. You know, we have in the past had to do an extension on that just because of the backlog of the contractors not being able to get to all of these property owners. So might be possible that we're doing something similar where we have to extend it into the following year and looking at maybe continued replacement construction sidewalk work into the spring of next year as well. But just wanted to give you a heads up that those letters are going out. So, and the only other thing I want to mention is we have another letter going out on the tree planting that we're doing on East Main Avenue. If you recall, we lost as part of that street improvement project, 22 trees were lost in that. So the planting schedule that I put in your packet, just like the earlier phase, same kind of process. We're worked with a landscape architect with Feenster and Kim to identify appropriate street right-of-way trees, and you know that's based on their ability to tolerate pavement de-icing techniques that we use. As well as work within a narrower strip of land, and also based on the root structure that each of these trees has, so that they will grow downward and not penetrate and bust up the sidewalks and things like that. So we're going to be putting, hopefully we'll have out, you'll see a schedule of the trees that we have there. So we're proposing 39 trees to replace those 22. So hopefully everyone takes a tree. Sometimes we've had in the past where people have said, I've lost a tree and I'm fine with that. I don't want to have another one back. But we're going to do our best to try to get as many as those 39 out there back. Of course, the area between North 8th Street and North 14th Street is a subject area. So we're trying to plant them in some cases into groups, but you can kind of see the varieties and species. Generally, we're looking at about a 2-inch caliper on these trees. So trees are about $600-700 a piece. So, and in some cases where a property owner might want to upgrade to a larger tree, we've allowed that to happen as well. They pay the difference on that. So our hope is that we'll be able to get the feedback from the property owners on that by the end of this month, and then work with the contractor on that and have them planted before Memorial Day. So that's about when the sod, we hope probably sod will go down sometime after Memorial Day. We want to get these in ahead of the sod.
That's neat. We're opportunity.
Yep, for
of 39 trees replacing 29?
22.
22.
Yep.
You know, the streets are always the focal point on these projects, but I think it's really a great thing that we have paid attention to the ancillary activities that go throughout our community with these too, so.
Yeah, well, I thank you for your support on that, Mike, and the rest of the council, Mayor. You're talking about like the banners, the street lights, the trees, the sidewalks, all of these things contribute to that streetscape. As you say, we don't just get caught up in the plain Jane street. We do as much as we can to embolden it and embellish it, make it look good.
And near and dear to my heart, the improvement of the sidewalks that continues to happen. I've been cursed and applauded on that area many times.
And burned in effigy, too.
Yeah. Good comments, Mike, good comments. Anything else to come before the council tonight? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.